Let me ask you a question. What makes a civilization great? Because yes, some cultures and civilizations are better than others. Is a civilization great because it has great leaders, like our own George Washington or President Abraham Lincoln or Britain's Winston Churchill? Is a civilization great because of the inventions and the technological advancements it engenders that change the world, like Henry Ford's Model T automobile, or our nation's space race that landed Americans and only Americans on the moon, or the personal computer that so changed the lives of billions all around our planet? The answer is, in fact, none of the above. The real basis and measure for what makes a nation or a culture truly great are the values it is built upon, what that culture believes in, and how those values inform the actions of its citizens. But what is the source of those values? Or rather, what should be the source of those values? Not the state, not an ideology, and most definitely not a political party. The source of our civilization's apex values should, in fact, be the family. It is the nuclear family of one man and a woman as father and mother, and their children, where values are nurtured and inculcated. Values that derive from the fact that we were founded by a generation of godly believers who understood who we are is irrevocably linked to our being made in the image of God, our Creator. But that source of eternal truth and the family that transmits that truth is under assault. Whether from a minority of a minority who shamelessly parade their rejection of wholesome family values, or from radical political actors who wish to burn and loot America and who have as their avowed goal the dismantling of the traditional family structure in the name of quote-unquote social justice. So how did the greatest nation on earth, America, part of the greatest civilization ever built, Christianity, come to this juncture with one of our two parties calling for more anarchy, the defunding of the police who protect us, and with extremists pretending to be quote-unquote teachers, indoctrinating our school children into believing our society has only victims or oppressors? The answer is simple, and it has to do with this symbol. Do you recognize it? That strange scribble is the official logo of the Weather Underground, an American terrorist group made up of entitled middle-class radicals from the 60s and 70s who thought they could incite a communist revolution in America by planting bombs in the Senate and the Pentagon. Of course, they failed, but what did the leaders of the Weather Underground do then? Did Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dawn give up? No. They became university professors, gave flashy interviews in glossy magazines, pictured standing on the American flag as they mentored young politicians like Barack Obama. Yes, Bill Ayers holding the first fundraiser for the future senator and president in his living room. That is the mainstreaming of terrorists into academe, and that is where we are today, with bigots, racists, like Ibrahim Kendi writing a book about how not to be a racist, and that book being made mandatory reading in our schools and even making it onto the reading list of America's most senior naval officer, a man who really believes America is the problem and capitalism must be destroyed. After decades of good Americans not paying attention to the infection of radicalism across our culture, we ended up literally outsourcing the raising of our children to extremists who hate this nation. They took over our institutions, and then those radicalized institutions started to take over our culture in order to dismantle it. But now, America is finally waking up as the deadly China virus shut down the world and school children were sent home for a whole year. For the first time in decades, parents actually got to see what their children were being subjected to, and they were horrified at the indoctrination. As a result, we have witnessed parents take a stand and push back across the nation to take back America and our culture. This is the great parent revolt, and it could save not just America, but our civilization. Today, on the Reality Check, we talk to the brave men and women who are standing up for the American family, our children, and our Christian civilization. My first guest is an individual who will be known to you from his time in the NFL. He is Jack Brewer, CEO of the Brewer Group and former presidential appointee. Mr. Brewer, welcome to the Gorka Reality Check.
Yes, Mr. Gorka, how are you, sir?
Good, thank you for joining us. My contention is that America is the greatest nation on God's earth, and our civilization is based upon the health of the family and the values that the family spreads through that civilization. You gave a presentation recently where you said something really, really shocking, and I'd like you to explain to the Newsmax audience. You said that no nation has done more in recent history to damage the family unit than America. Please, would you share your thoughts?
Yeah, well, these are my thoughts, but they come from firsthand experience. So Mr. Gorka, I've poured my heart and soul into inner city communities across the U.S., and I have extensive experience also across the globe, Africa, Haiti. But I've never seen a civilization that really incentivizes the breakup of the family structure. We have communities right now that are just ravished. I mean, 77% of African American kids born without a father, with fathers that number should just have the alarm bells ringing across the board. But a lot of it comes from these liberal policies that have been pushed over time, them confusing equity with equality, trying to pick winners and losers. That is just not how a democracy works. And so whenever you go into these inner city schools, you must ask yourself, why do the schools that spend the most money have the lowest levels of reading and math proficiency? You're spending $20,000 and $25,000 per year per child. This is the government spending taxpayer money on education, yet these kids cannot read and write. Why? Because they're going home to broken families. They're not able to even get help with homework. No one's teaching them basic grammar. No one's teaching them basic etiquette. All of these things have been removed from our schools. And this is done through the government systems, through these local school districts and school boards that are run by these liberal politicians. Enough is enough with this. I tell you what, the American dream right now we're at war. We're at war to protect it. We're at war to fight for what this country was really built upon. And that's to be able to dream, to go out and pursue happiness and prosperity. Some kids can't do that right now in America. I got kids right now who can barely read and write, and they're 10, 11, 12 years old. That's ridiculous for a country to have that much wealth, to be producing children like that because we broke up the family structure. Now we're pushing everything from homosexuality and transgenderism and telling boys they can be girls and girls that they can be boys. You're confusing these kids that are already suffering. Enough is enough. We've got to get back to righteousness in America. And righteousness starts with the family structure.
And what is your response, Mr. Brewer, to those who say Black Lives Matter is part of the solution and they're helping Black America?
I tell you what, you look up this week, this present week, there's been over 100 people shot in the city of Chicago. 100. Last weekend, there was 16 people shot in St. Louis. And I haven't saw one Black Lives Matter rally. I haven't heard them start a nationwide campaign. I haven't heard them say one single word about the hundreds of Black lives that are literally shot and killed every week across this nation in some of the most underserved Black communities in America. I've never heard one time for a BLM activist or supporter to stand up for school choice so that these kids can go out and get an education. So don't tell me Black Lives Matter. Black lives don't matter to you because you're not willing to promote righteousness. You want to go out and say, oh, we want to have queer affirming households. We don't want to have men in the households. We want to promote women to go out and do their own thing without a man in the house. That is not what African Americans need. These kids are 20 times more likely to commit crimes because they're fatherless. And so, of course, they're going to have run-ins with law enforcement officers. What about getting back to righteousness where we speak to police officers with respect, where we go out and actually realize that not every police officer is white? We have a lot of African-American men trying to serve their communities, and you disrespect them as well. But you tell me that Black Lives Matter? I don't buy it. I'm tired of sugarcoating everything. We have a lukewarm society right now. The only issues that people will promote are the issues that they're emotional about, or the issues that they can get likes and retweets, and that their friends and their family members can say, oh, good job, and pat them on the back. No one wants to get dirty. No one wants to get their hands dirty and get to the root cause of all these issues across our nation. Right now, we got 3 million people locked up in our prisons. Half of them shouldn't be there, but you can't put them back into society because they're not ready. Our criminal justice system is broken, our educational system broken, and we got to fix this so that we can get America back to the days where we had to dream alive and well in this nation. People stood up for our flag. We told our kids that when they hear that anthem, they get up and put their hand on their heart. Not because we're a perfect nation, because we're the greatest nation. We're the nation where you can at least fight for your rights and your opportunities. You have a voice to speak out. Anyone can be anything. I've never seen so many Black millionaires and billionaires talk as if they're victims. It's pathetic. I'm tired of it. I stand against it in the name of Jesus.
Well, God bless you for speaking the truth. You are right. There is a war against the American family, and it is the American family that has to win that war.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.